there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shelby and today is the start of a reading vlog. I am going to be reading 5 romances that are recommended by 5 of my friends on Bookstagram. I've done this type of video a few different times. I've done it twice for booktubers and twice already for Bookstagrammers, but I wanted to do it again because I love doing it and it's so much fun to spotlight some of my favorite people to follow. And I love to see if I love the same books that my friends do. I will link all the books that I talk about down below, as well as all the Bookstagrammers that I mention. I would recommend you follow all of them if you don't already, and let's get right into it. The first Bookstagrammer I have to recommend is Brittany, and her handle is Book Talks with Brit. And she is a mom to one little boy, and she lives on the East Coast. She's a lot of fun to talk to and overall just a really nice person. The book that she recommended to me is Exes with Benefits by Nicole Williams. And I'll just read you the synopsis. It says, "He wants a second chance. I want a divorce. To get what I want, I'll have to give him what he does. The only benefit I want from my ex is a divorce. We got married for all the wrong reasons. The one thing we got right was our separation. I should have known better than to think I could bet on forever with a guy like Cannon Ford. Everything about him screamed impermanent, from his wild eyes to his restless soul. When I left him and the small town I had spent my whole life in, I swore I'd never go back. Never only turned out to be 5 years. Cannon claims he's changed, but he hasn't. Same knowing smile, same rough demeanor, same body crafted from sin and sinew. And yet something is different. He thinks this is his chance for redemption. My disagreement comes in the form of divorce papers dropped in his lap. He refuses to sign them unless he wants a month to prove himself to me. That's his offer. 1 month to make me fall in love with him again, and if I don't, he'll sign the papers. As much as I want to say no, I agree. I can suffer my ex for a short amount of time if that's what it takes to be free of him once and for all. I fell for him once. I won't make the same mistake twice. He says we're not over. I say we were over before we got started. Only one of us can be right, and I can't let it be him." That sounds amazing. It is a marriage in trouble romance, obviously, based on the synopsis. And I do like those, and I don't see them written enough, so I'm very excited to read this one. And then the next Bookstagrammer is Andrea, and her handle is Chula is Reading Romance. And Andrea is a Midwesterner, and she also is a writer, so I believe she's going to be publishing her first novel in the near future. She's also a lot of fun to talk to, and the book that she recommended to me was Sleet Kitten by S.J. Tilley. And this is a rather new author, and I've seen her all over the place, and I've been really curious about her, but her covers haven't really been my thing, so that's what's been holding me back. But Andrea said she thought I would really enjoy this series. It is the first book in the Sleet series, and it is a sports romance. And the synopsis says there are a few things that life doesn't prepare you for, like what to do when a super hot guy catches you sneaking around in his basement, or what to do when a mysterious package shows up with tickets to a hockey game because apparently he's a professional athlete, or how to handle it when you get the game and realize he's freaking famous since half of the 20,000 people in the stands are wearing his jersey. I thought I was a well-adjusted adult, reasonably prepared for life, but one date with Jackson Wilder, a viral video, and a "I didn't know she was your mom" incident, and I'm suddenly questioning everything I thought I knew. But he's fun and great, and I think I might be falling for him. But I don't know if he's falling for me too, or if he's as much of a player off the ice as on. Sounds like a sports romance meets romantic comedy, so it does sound good, and Andrea really recommended it, so I'm looking forward to picking it up. The next Bookstagrammer is Michelle, and her handle is Mama is Busy Reading. And she is also a Midwesterner, and she has one son, and she's also a phlebotomist, which is pretty cool. The book she recommended is It's Only Love by Lila Dawes. And this is another one that the cover wasn't really my thing, but she said she really liked it. It's the first book in the Citrus Pines series. And the synopsis says, Christy Lee is having the worst time. Her scumbag boyfriend has run off with all of her money, leaving her completely broke. She's a self-employed writer with the worst case of writer's block, and to top it off, her estranged father has just passed away. Now she has to return home to Citrus Pines to deal with the estate and plan the funeral, in the town that holds nothing but painful memories for her, especially in the form of the town bachelor Dean Campbell. Having publicly humiliated her in high school, she wants nothing more than to avoid Dean and leave town ASAP. But when the house needs repairs and with no money to pay for it, Christy has to reluctantly accept Dean's offer to help out. However, For someone who was branded her so unattractive in high school, Dean sure seems to be paying her a lot of attention. With her trust issues non-existent, will Christy ever be able to let down her guard and open her heart? It sounds really cute. I do like the setup of this, so I'm hoping I enjoy it despite this cover. The next Bookstagrammer is Gretchen, and her handle is Books, Blurbs, and Brews, which is a really cute name. And she was a sensitivity reader for one of my favorite books of this year, and I thought that was awesome. She does have a spinal cord injury, and so she read a book I loved that had that type of representation, and I just love knowing people who are able to do that for authors and make it authentic. And she also has an affinity to like wine tasting and having a really good time with that. And she's visited a wine country near me, and so we've chatted about that. And she's also a gem to talk to. The book she recommended is actually already on my TBR, so I was really excited that she recommended it. And that is Stripped Down by May Harden. It is the first book in the Sonoma series, and I've read one novella by May Harden recently, so I'm really excited to pick up some of her full-length novels. The synopsis says, "All of baking is my thing. Bachelorette parties are not. Surprise strippers even less so. But I'm also positive this guy isn't really a stripper, and if he is, he's pretty bad at it. On the other hand, he's very, very good at kissing, and maybe I shouldn't have goaded him into doing it, but it's not like I'll ever see him again. At least I'll have something to fantasize about when I'm baking muffins tomorrow. Brooks contractor, loner, stripper? Not usually. But I'll do anything to get the bachelorette party in the room next door to settle down. All I wanted was a good night's sleep. I never expected my entire world to shift when she opened the hotel door with her wide green eyes and sweet vanilla scent. Now that I've had a taste, I can't let her go. I just have to find a way to break down her walls." Sounds really good, and like I said, this one was already on my TBR, so it's definitely high priority for me to read it. The last Bookstagrammer is Rachel, and her Bookstagram handle is Read with Rach. She is also a mom, and she lives in the Midwest. And like with all the other ladies, she is a lot of fun to talk to. All of these girls are my friends, and I am so happy to feature them here. And the book that she recommended is Wanted, Wed or Alive by Willow, Aster, and Laura Pavlov. And I've read books by Laura Pavlov, and they are pretty different than what this one seems to be. She said this one was kind of a romantic comedy, which isn't usually what Laura Pavlov writes, so I'm very curious about it. I've never read Willow, Aster before. The synopsis says, "A runaway groom, a cautious neighbor, too many sexually fueled run-ins to speak of. Maya, I came to New York for a fresh start, a new job, a new apartment, a new life. The last thing I'm looking for is a man. Been there, done that. Jesse, I flee for my life when I leave Chicago, escaping a lifetime of misery, but from the moment my eyes land on Maya Whitefield, I'm done for. And don't even get me started on watching her play the cello. I've never envied anything the way I envy the enormous piece of wood between her legs. Move over, cello. There's a new man in town." That sounds really fun, and I like the kind of short and sweet synopsis. So yeah, those are the 5 people I'm featuring and the 5 books I plan on reading. So when I end up picking one of them up, I will come back and update you later. Okay, so it's a few days after I filmed my first clip for this vlog, and I ended up picking up Gretchen's recommendation, which is Stripped Down by May Harden, and this is the first book in the Sonoma series. So it takes place really close to where I live, like an hour away from me, so that's kind of cool. If I sound a little bit weird, it's because I had a ton of dental work done today, like 2 hours worth, and I am not feeling my best. I'm on some pain medication, but I am powering through because I wanted to update you guys before I ended up finishing it. Our heroine in this story is having a bachelorette party for, I believe, like her cousin or a friend, and they're in this hotel room very late at night, and they're being very rowdy, and they get a knock on the door at like 1 a.m. and they think it's their male stripper who is running late. The guy is at the door, and like I said, they think he's a male stripper, but he actually is just the guy who shares the room next to them, and he really wants them to go to sleep because they're being so loud, but they keep thinking he's the stripper, so he ends up stripping just to kind of placate them and maybe get them to stop being rowdy and go to sleep. And he ends up kissing the heroine before he leaves because she's drunk and she kind of dares him to. They never expect to see each other again, but the next day the heroine, she owns a bakery, and she has a meeting with a new contractor because she wants to make some additions to it for like a culinary school, and her new contractor happens to be the hero. So that kind of makes things awkward, and it kind of goes from there. And like I said, I am at the halfway point and things have just gotten pretty steamy. I am enjoying it. It's on the shorter side. I think it is under 200 pages. It's like 190 pages. So it's a little bit longer than a novella, but it is not quite a full-length novel, so I don't really know what to call it. I'll see if at the end I feel like it's super fleshed out or if it feels a little bit cut short. Sometimes those shorter novels that are around the 200 page mark don't quite feel complete to me, but I am hoping that at the end of this it does feel like a complete romance. I do like the whole setup and I like the side characters, so I'm hoping that the next 3 books in the series focus on some of the side characters I liked. So yeah, I will come back and update you guys when I end up finishing it. Okay, so it's the next day and last night I ended up finishing Stripped Down by May Harden. Like I said, this was only about 200 pages, so it was a very quick read. And I'm going to give this one 3 stars because I did like the setup and I liked the overall romance, but because of the length, I felt like it was a little bit underdeveloped in that department and it was a little bit heavy on the steamy scenes. I think there was like over 6 steamy scenes in a 200 page book, which may work for like a novella if you're looking for a super steamy novella, or a longer full-length book if you're looking for a steamier full-length book as well. But with the length and the amount of steamy scenes, it just didn't really work for me. I'm one of those people who I prefer the steamy scenes to happen after the 50% mark, and with a full-length like 300 page novel, I'm totally fine with like 2 to 4 steamy scenes. I don't need a bunch. So that really didn't add anything to the story for me, and it actually took away from their romantic development. So yeah, I'm going to give that one 3 stars. I may continue on in the series, especially if some of the later books are a little bit longer. Then I ended up picking up Rachel's recommendation, which is Wanted, Wed, or Alive by Willow, Aster, and Laura Pavlov. So Willow Aster is a new to me author, and Laura Pavlov, I've read some of her books before that were independently written. And this to me reminds me a lot of like a Megan Quinn book or a Max Monroe book. It is labeled as like a romantic comedy. Our hero and heroine in this story are both from Chicago. The hero ended up leaving his soon-to-be bride on their wedding day and realized she wasn't the woman for him, and he ended up moving to New York City because his brothers work and live there. They just bought like this big building of condominiums and they are kind of fixing them up, and he moves into this building and his upstairs neighbor is the heroine, and she's also from Chicago. She moved to New York City for a fresh start. I believe she might be a lawyer, and her best friend and her both work in New York City, and they end up becoming friends even though they're attracted to one another. So it's kind of a friends to lovers romantic comedy, and so far I am enjoying it. I'm about 50% into it and I do like it. I wouldn't say it's like a favorite romantic comedy or anything like that, but it's overall a good time, and there's been some pretty funny moments which I do enjoy. So yeah, I'll let you guys know what I end up thinking of it when I finish it. And if it looks like I am petting an animal, it's because I have my cat in here with me. He's kind of just sitting on my lap and wanting to be pet, so I looked like a little bit distracted. But yeah, I will come back and update you guys later. Okay, it's the following day, and yesterday I finished Wanted, Wed, or Alive by Willow Aster and Laura Pavlov. And I am also going to give this one 3 stars. It had a lot of really good potential, and I thought I was going to enjoy it more than I did. I liked the kind of comedic element. It reminded me a lot of like a Max Monroe or a Megan Quinn book. And I liked the friends to lovers / roommates to lovers tropes. But they got together kind of early on in the book, and they said I love you like immediately after starting to date. So I think it was just a little bit too easy on that front, and I could see the conflict from like a mile away. It was very obvious. That so much didn't really bother me, but it just overall wasn't like a favorite romance or anything. But Rachel had told me that the first book in the series was probably like the worst one, and that the 2 authors started to write better together as the series goes on. I think she said she really enjoyed book 3 because the whole series focuses on the hero's brothers and maybe the sister as well. So maybe in the future I will read more in the series. I'm not 100% sure yet. And then last night I picked up Brittany's pick, which is Exes with Benefits by Nicole Williams. And this is a second chance romance, almost like a marriage in trouble romance. The 2 main characters were high school sweethearts, and they ended up getting married when they were like 18 because they got pregnant. and we don't know exactly what happened, but the hero developed a drinking problem and like an addiction to fighting, and it really wrecked their marriage. So I think within like a year of being married, the heroine up and left him, and now it's 5 years later. She's left their small town and she's having to return home. She had moved to Chicago, but she's returning home because her grandmother who had raised her just passed away. So she has to come back for the funeral and to kind of tie up the affairs and everything like that. And she runs back into him, and they had never gotten divorced, so she hands him divorce papers and she asks him to sign them, and he refuses. And he ends up saying, "I will sign them if you give me 1 month. 1 month to let me win you back," because he has changed and he wants to prove it to her. And she really wants him to sign the divorce papers, so she ends up agreeing to this deal, and he's trying to win her back. So I am a little bit over halfway into the book and I'm really enjoying it. I do like well-developed second chance romances. I don't know if it'll be like a 5-star read or anything, but I am really enjoying it, and I do like that it's angsty. I wish we had the hero's POV as well, because it is just the heroine's POV, but overall I'm really enjoying it. I do like the small town setting. I don't think it has any like companion books or anything. I think it's a true standalone, which is kind of rare for like small town books. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I will come back and update you guys when I end up finishing it. Okay, it's the following day, and yesterday I finished Exes with Benefits by Nicole Williams, and I ended up really enjoying this. I gave it 4 stars, and it wasn't anything like crazy or dramatic or anything like new. It wasn't unexpected or anything. Like, it was a little bit predictable, but it was still really enjoyable, and I liked all of the angst in there. And I do enjoy a second chance romance that is well done. And while this wouldn't be like my favorite second chance romance, it is pretty good. And so like I said, I'm rating it 4 stars. And I liked that it was a standalone for a small town romance, and I would be willing to read more by this author in the future. Then I picked up Andrea's recommendation, which is Sleep Kitten by S.J. Tilley, and I'm already 80% into it because I started it last night, and it's a fairly quick read. I've been seeing this author all over Instagram. A few different of my Bookstagram friends really like this author, and so I've been wanting to read her, but the covers haven't been that appealing to me. But so far I'm really enjoying this story. Our heroine in this story, she attended some political party for her cousin, and it wasn't really her scene. It was held at some athlete's house, and she ends up trying to get away from the party, and she stumbles into the house owner's library, and a man ends up finding her in there, and he ends up being the one who owns this house. And they end up having this kind of whirlwind night together. They didn't sleep together or anything, but they just had this really romantic moment together. The hero ends up being this really famous and popular hockey player, and it is their romance, and it's very cute. I love the witty banter and the personalities of the 2 main characters. I would like a little bit more emotional depth there, but it's a nice, fun, and light read. It's a little bit on the slow burn side as well. They didn't like hook up fully until at least like the 70% mark, if not later. I am interested in the other characters in the story, so I probably would continue on in the series. Like I said, I'm not done yet. I'm only at the 80% mark. But I think it's going to be probably around a 4-star read. I wouldn't say I was emotionally invested enough to be like a 5-star read, but I really do enjoy it, and it's overall just really fun to read. So I'll let you guys know when I end up finishing it if I still think it's going to be a 4-star read or if my rating goes up or down. Then I'll pick up my last book, which is Michelle's recommendation, and then I will be done with this video. So yeah, I will come back and update you later. Okay, it's the next day, and I did end up finishing Sleep Kitten by S.J. Tilley, and I ended up really enjoying this romance. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed all of the witty banter, and overall it was just a really good sports romance. I wanted maybe a tad bit more emotional depth to it, but I think it was just a really good feel-good read. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars. And then I immediately picked up It's Only Love by Lila Dawes, and this is Michelle's recommendation. And since starting it, I have finished it and didn't get a chance to update you guys. So I'm just gonna kind of update you guys on that book all at once. So our heroine in this story returns to her small town because her father has passed away, and she kind of had a rough relationship with him, and she left when she was pretty young. And now it is many, many years later, and she reconnects with a lot of her childhood friends and a guy that she knew from her childhood, and they kind of didn't like each other. They talked smack about each other in school, but secretly they had crushes on each other, and now they are back in each other's lives, and it is their romance. and I didn't really like this one a whole lot. The writing style was really hard for me to get into. It is third person POV, which I am okay with a lot of the times if it is done well, but here it wasn't. And I do know this is her debut book, but for a debut I don't think it was that well written. Versus S.J. Tilly, she said in her acknowledgement that Sleek Kitten was the first book she ever wrote, and it doesn't really read like a debut, whereas this one did. There was a lot of flashbacks from childhood and teenage years. They were kind of just mixed in to the chapters, and there was nothing to signify that that was a flashback. So you would just be reading along and all of a sudden you're reading a flashback and you don't know for like a paragraph that you're reading a flashback because nothing else signifies that it is a flashback. No italics, no chapter change, no like 10 years ago or anything like that. It was very clunky to read, and the plot kind of devolved for me. It started out as a really good scenario, but there was a couple of things like a side character as a love interest that just didn't work for me. It was kind of like a fake love triangle, and there was just a lot of back and forth that I didn't enjoy. So I just don't think I'll be continuing in the series, and this one didn't work for me. I feel really bad because I do like supporting indie authors, and I do like other books that Michelle has recommended. This one just didn't work for me, and I ended up giving it 2.5 stars. So I'm going to quickly go over the 5 books that I read for this video and what I ended up rating each book. The first book was Stripped Down by May HARDEN. This was Gretchen's recommendation, and I gave this 3 stars. Then I have Wanted Wed or Alive by WILLOW, ASTER, and Laura Pavlov. This was Rachel's recommendation, and I gave this one 3 stars. Then I have Exes with Benefits by NICOLE Williams. This was Brittany's recommendation, and I gave it 4 stars. Then I have Sleek Kitten by S.J. Tilly. This was Andrea's recommendation, and I gave this 4 stars. The last one is It's Only Love by Lila Dawes. This was Michelle's recommendation, and I gave this 2.5 stars. So I had a lot of fun reading all the romances that some of my book stuff friends recommended to me. Instead of just going on their feeds and picking books that they said they enjoyed, I messaged each of them and asked them to recommend me a book, so these are what they chose for me. And while I didn't love all of these books, I really appreciate my book stuff friends and talking with them, and I do still trust their recommendations even if I didn't love all of these. So I highly recommend you guys checking all of them out, and even if I didn't love some of these books, maybe you guys will, because some of my friends did a lot. I'd love to hear if you guys have read any of these books and if you enjoyed them, and if you also follow any of my book stuff friends. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys on my next one. Bye.